They told her she didn't belong in the room. But then the lawyer said 10 words. And every face in that room turned pale. 16-year-old Raina Monroe had never stepped foot inside the grand living room of the Whitaker estate. She had grown up in its shadows. Her mother, Denise, had served the Whitaker family for almost 2 decades, scrubbing their marble floors, ironing silk shirts, and keeping secrets no paycheck could ever cover. The day Benjamin Whitaker, tech mogul, philanthropist, and patriarch, died, the mansion became a fortress. Guards, lawyers, socialites, and reporters buzzed like hornets around the gates. But amidst the chaos, a white envelope arrived at Raina's modest home, addressed not to her mother, but to her. Raina Monroe, you are requested to attend the reading of the last will and testament of Benjamin Whitaker. Her mother tried to tear it up. This has to be a mistake, Denise whispered, her hands trembling. They'll eat you alive in that house, Raina. You don't belong in their world. But Raina had questions that had simmered too long in silence. Why had Mr. Whitaker always looked at her with guilt? Why did he once send her a scholarship anonymously? And why, in his final days, had he asked to speak with her alone, a meeting her mother had forbidden? On the day of the reading, Raina wore her best dress, a simple navy blue one she had bought secondhand for a school debate she never attended. As she stepped into the estate's grand foyer, conversations halted. Eyes turned. Murmurs rose. She's the maid's kid, one cousin hissed. What is she doing here? Sneered another, her pearls rattling as she laughed. Raina stood tall, taller than she ever had before. She clutched the invitation like armor. In the great hall, Victoria Whitaker, Benjamin's icy and statuesque widow, perched like a queen beside her 3 adult children, Grant, the arrogant eldest son, Lillian, the socialite, and Chase, the quiet one who rarely spoke but always watched. A hush fell as the family lawyer entered with a thick, leather-bound document. His voice echoed. Per the final wishes of Benjamin Whitaker, this reading shall be attended by all parties listed in the addendum. He paused, glanced at Raina. Several family members whispered. Then he continued, including Raina Monroe. A gasp. Victoria's glass of wine trembled in her hand. No, she muttered. This is outrageous. But it was too late. The will was about to be read, and secrets long buried were about to claw their way into the light. The mahogany box opened with a soft creak. Inside it lay a sealed, handwritten letter, Benjamin Whitaker's personal statement, a document that even his closest advisors hadn't seen. The lawyer cleared his throat, glasses trembling slightly on his nose. In accordance with Mr. Whitaker's final wishes, I will now read aloud his personal letter before we proceed with the division of assets. All eyes turned toward the parchment. Even Victoria's smug silence cracked for a moment. The lawyer began. To those gathered here, family, blood, and those who walk these halls unseen. If you are hearing this, it means I am no longer of this world. And it means the time for secrets is over. First, to my wife, Victoria. You maintained this family's image, often at great personal cost. You were strong, ruthless, and far more dangerous than most men I knew. But you also became someone I feared. To my children, Grant, Lillian, and Chase, you were born into privilege. But wealth, without gratitude, is a curse. And I fear I've cursed you more than blessed you. A beat of stunned silence followed. Then whispers erupted. Grant scowled. Lillian fanned herself nervously. Chase's fingers clenched tightly. The lawyer continued. Now, to the one person who was never supposed to exist in my world, and yet who became its quiet truth. Raina Monroe. I wronged you before you ever took your first breath. I wronged your mother, Denise, the only person in this household who ever looked me in the eyes without expectation or deceit. Raina, you are my daughter. The words dropped like a grenade. A glass shattered. Lillian gasped. Grant stood up so fast the chair screeched backward. What? He roared. Victoria's hands froze midair. Her face drained of all color. For a brief moment, the room felt like a courtroom, and Raina was the one on trial. The lawyer, unfazed by the chaos, pressed on. To Raina Monroe, I leave the controlling interest in Whitaker Industries, 51% of all shares, as held in a trust under her name until the age of 21. To Denise Monroe, I leave the Whitaker Beach House in Florida, the only place I ever knew peace. The rest of my estate shall be divided among my legal children, in accordance with the attached appendix. Then came the final words. To my family, if you wish to challenge this, know that every signature has been witnessed, notarized, and legally sealed. My conscience, however flawed, is now at peace. Raina, forgive me. And rise. The lawyer closed the letter. Silence thundered through the room. Then all eyes turned to her. Raina, a girl who came in as the maid's daughter, but who now held the keys to everything. You are not his daughter. Victoria Whitaker's voice cracked through the stillness like lightning splitting a tree. Her polished fingernails dug into the armrest of the antique chair as she rose to her feet. Her eyes, usually composed, cold, now burned with fire. She's lying. This is a setup. A scam. That girl is just the help's daughter. Benjamin was weak in his final years, confused, manipulated. But the lawyer calmly slid another document across the table. A DNA report. Sealed, signed, notarized. I regret to inform you, Mrs. Whitaker, he said, this test was ordered by Mr. Whitaker himself. The results confirm 99.98% probability of paternity. Silence again. Then, no, Grant growled, his voice low and shaking. No, you can't just walk in here and take what's ours. You're not one of us. You never will be. Raina met his stare without blinking. Neither were you, she said softly. You inherited everything. I survived it. Grant lunged forward, but Chase, the quiet brother, stepped in between them. That's enough, Chase said. It was the first time he had spoken all day, and for a moment, the room respected him. Later that evening, the family splintered like glass under pressure. In the parlor, Raina sat alone staring at the fireplace, the words of the will still echoing in her ears. Raina, forgive me. And rise. But she didn't feel risen. She felt wrecked. Denise, her mother, stood behind her, silent, unsure. Her eyes filled with the pain of secrets long carried. She placed a hand on Raina's shoulder. I didn't want this for you, she whispered. I wanted you to grow up clean, free of their world, of his mistakes. Raina turned. Did you ever love him? Denise closed her eyes. I loved the boy he once was, before power made him someone I didn't recognize. A pause. And you? Denise asked. What do you want now? Raina's voice was quiet but resolute. The truth. And the seat they never meant for me to have. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, Victoria was destroying things. Crystal vases. Perfume bottles. The silence of her dominance. Lillian, trembling, sat nearby. Mother, what if she really is? Victoria spat. But it doesn't matter. We'll challenge the will. The court will listen to us. She has no status, no polish, no understanding of legacy. Lillian hesitated. But she has the shares now. She could fire us. She won't, Victoria said, regaining her icy calm. Because we won't give her the chance. She picked up her phone. Call Ronald. Tell him to find something. Anything. I want her credibility buried before morning. Meanwhile, back in the guest room, Raina opened a drawer. Inside it was a leather-bound journal, her father's, left there intentionally for her. Page after page revealed a man riddled with guilt. He had watched Raina grow up from afar. He'd sent anonymous donations to her school, arranged secret health coverage for her asthma. Every page ended with the same line. I should have claimed her. And on the final page. If you're reading this, it means I finally did. Raina wept. Not because she felt victorious, but because this wasn't power. This was inheritance wrapped in grief. The next morning, headlines exploded. Whitaker heiress revealed. Daughter of former maid claims majority control. Shock at Whitaker mansion. Hidden heir changes everything. Paparazzi circled the estate like vultures. Cameras clicked. Reporters screamed her name. And Raina, just 16, carrying 1,000,000 tons of truth, stepped out onto the marble front steps in silence. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The world would learn soon enough. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was the storm they didn't see coming. It took less than 48 hours. The Whitaker family filed a lawsuit contesting the will. They claimed mental incapacity, coercion, and forged documentation. The media lapped it up like honey. Cable news anchors called it a classic inheritance scandal. Blogs accused Raina of being a gold digger. Talk show panels debated whether a maid's daughter could even run a billion-dollar empire. At school, students stared. Teachers whispered. A chalkboard once filled with equations now bore a crude message. CEO? More like cleaning every opportunity. Raina walked past it, her jaw set, her eyes forward. But her hands trembled when no one was looking. At home, Denise stayed up every night with legal papers, burning through coffee and silence. They're going to try and crush you in court, she said, her voice tight with fear. They'll drag my name, your name, everything. I know, Raina replied. But I'm not letting them rewrite me out of my own story. The court date was set. Downtown Los Angeles. Federal probate court. A circus of cameras, protest signs, and security cordons. The Whitakers arrived in black SUVs with tinted windows. Raina, in a simple black dress and sneakers, exited quietly with her mother, a storm inside calmskin. Inside the courtroom, their lawyer, Alan Kim, a fearless Korean-American litigator, paced like a lion. "They want to paint you as a mistake," he warned Raina. "We're going to make them eat every word." Opening arguments began. Victoria's team rolled out photos of Benjamin on oxygen, claimed he was barely lucid in his final month. They cited old family records, tried to cast doubt on the DNA test. They even brought in a psychologist who had never met him, yet testified he likely suffered cognitive decline. The courtroom murmured. Whispers of fraud and manipulation bounced off the walls. Then came the twist. Alan stood, raised a finger. "We'd like to call our surprise witness," he said. The courtroom leaned in. From the side door, a figure emerged. Chase Whitaker. Gasps filled the room. Grant's mouth dropped open. Lillian blinked, confused. Victoria stiffened like marble. Chase walked to the witness stand, adjusted the mic, and looked directly at the judge. "My name is Chase Whitaker. I am Benjamin's youngest son, and I am here to tell the truth, no matter how much it hurts." He began slowly, voice even, gaze firm. "I knew about Raina long before this will. My father told me when I was 13. I kept the secret out of fear. Fear of my mother. Of the family." Victoria stood. "Objection. This is he." "Sit down," the judge snapped. "Let him speak." Chase continued. "My father wasn't confused. He was repentant. For years, he wrote letters to Raina he never sent. I found them. I read them. He signed over the shares months before he got sick. And the DNA test? I drove him to the clinic. The room froze. And for the record," Chase added, his voice rising slightly, "I think she'll run this company better than any of us ever did." Outside the courthouse, the headlines changed within minutes. "Son of Benjamin Whitaker testifies, confirms secret daughter's inheritance." Family civil war in courtroom ends with truth bomb. The lawsuit collapsed by the end of the week. Judge Martinez ruled the will valid and binding. Back at the estate, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Raina sat alone in her father's old study. She stared out the window, watching the world move. Chase entered, hesitant. "I guess that makes us siblings," he said with a soft laugh. Raina turned, surprised. "Why did you do it?" Chase shrugged. "Because I'm tired of pretending. Tired of watching this family destroy what it doesn't understand. You deserve the truth. You always did." A pause. "Do you think the others will forgive me?" he asked. Raina looked at him carefully. "I don't know," she said. "But I think I just started forgiving you. And for the first time in days." She smiled. Not for the cameras. Not for survival. Just for herself. The boardroom at Whitaker Industries was nothing like the world Raina grew up in. Walls made of glass. Tables of black marble. Voices sharp like daggers in suits. It had been 6 months since the court ruling. 6 months of silence, stares, and strategy. Half of the board still refused to look her in the eye. A few offered fake smiles. Only 1 or 2 called her Miss Monroe without condescension. But she wasn't here to be liked. She was here to make a decision. Across from her sat Victoria, still composed, still cold. The matriarch had lost in court, but not in spirit. She had quietly orchestrated shareholders, lobbied allies, and floated rumors of a restructure. She thought she still had time to claw the company back. Until this meeting. Because today, Raina called for a vote. And the motion on the table wasn't just about shares or control. It was about legacy. "Let me be clear," Raina began, her voice steady, unshaken. "I'm not here to be your enemy. But I will no longer play a role in a system that protects wealth but punishes truth." She stood. "In my name and my father's name, I moved to dissolve Whitaker Industries as a private corporate entity and transform it into a non-profit foundation." Gasps. Eyes widened. Pins dropped. A few board members nearly choked on their water. Victoria's mouth opened, but no words came out. Raina continued. "The company's assets will be converted into a trust dedicated to education access, housing equity, and healthcare in marginalized communities. No more yachts. No more empty towers. No more pretending legacy is a birthright." She looked directly at Grant, then Lillian. "You built your lives on the idea that inheritance makes you superior. I built mine on the fact that it doesn't." One by one, votes were cast. Many abstained. A few voted no. But enough said yes. The motion passed. Whitaker Industries would no longer exist as it was. And Raina, the girl they once mocked, had just changed the shape of an empire. That night, back in her old neighborhood, Raina stood outside the community center that now bore her father's name, the Benjamin and Raina Monroe Foundation. Kids ran past her laughing. Volunteers handed out school supplies. Inside, free healthcare clinics had already begun. Her mother, Denise, was speaking with a young mother in Spanish. The legacy, once toxic, secret, and selfish, now fed something bigger than any inheritance: a future. As Raina watched the sunset, someone stepped beside her. "Chase, you could have taken it all," he said softly. "I did," she replied, and smiled.